Hello and welcome. Come, find a comfortable place. Settle into the quiet. Let the noise of the material world fade into a distant hum, like the sound of the ocean trapped in a shell. Close your eyes for just a moment and imagine the ground beneath your feet. It feels solid, does it not? Indisputable, permanent. This is the lie that the prime material plane tells you to keep you sane. You are standing on a world that is a tiny speck of dust floating in a sealed glass vial, which itself is floating in a vast, burning sea. But to find the way out, to find a portal, you must first understand the prison in which you reside. To understand how to leave, you must understand why you are here. In the cosmology of the Great Wheel, and indeed in the variations found across the countless spheres of existence, the prime material plane is often considered the center. It is the anchor. It is the place where the philosophical concepts of good, evil, law, and chaos mix together to form physical matter. Stone, wood, flesh, water. These are the hardened sediments of grander ideas. Because of this density, the prime material is heavy. It is magnetically jealous. It wants to keep you. Gravity is not just a physical force pulling you toward the center of a planet. It is a metaphysical assertion of reality, keeping you anchored to the timeline. Most inhabitants of the prime material will live their entire lives without ever seeing a portal. They will till the earth, fight their wars, raise their children, and die, never knowing that just 3 feet to the left, in a space they cannot see, is a burning city of brass or a forest of eternal twilight. For them, the horizon is a limit. For you, the horizon is merely a suggestion. But the universe has barriers. In the ancient texts, learned sages speak of the crystal spheres. These were massive, ceramic-like shells that encased entire solar systems, bobbing in the flammable phlogiston. While the phlogiston has become less accessible in recent eras, replaced or subsumed by the vastness of the astral sea in the understanding of modern arcanists, the concept of the sphere remains relevant. A world is a closed system. So, how does one break a closed system? You must look for the seams. The first step in finding a portal is not looking with your eyes, but feeling with your spark. You must understand that the barriers between worlds are not uniform walls of brick. They are more like fabric, a heavy velvet in some places, worn thin to cheesecloth in others. Where the fabric is thin, travel is possible. These thin spots are rarely accidental. They occur where the resonance of a location on the prime material matches the resonance of an outer or inner plane. This is the law of sympathy. Consider a volcano. It is a place of heat, pressure, and destruction. It resonates deeply with the elemental plane of fire. At the very heart of the caldera, the barrier between the prime and the fire plane is almost non-existent. The lava you see might actually be bleeding through from the city of brass. To walk into that fire is to die, yes, but for a being immune to flame, it is a doorway. Consider a battlefield where 1,000 soldiers died in agony, their blood soaking the soil, their spirits crying out in despair. The resonance here is heavy, gray, and mournful. It vibrates at the same frequency as the Shadowfell. On a moonless night, the mist that rises from that field is not merely condensation. It is the breath of the plane of shadow. Walking into that mist with the right intention can slip you out of the prime material entirely. But these are natural phenomena, dangerous and wild. You are looking for something more structured. You are looking for a portal. A true portal is a tear in the fabric that has been stitched open. It is a permanent or semi-permanent connection between 2 points in the multiverse. Unlike the spell teleport, which moves you across the same plane, a portal moves you across dimensions. Why were they built? Who stitched these wounds open? Many were created by the creator races, the progenitors who walked the worlds before the gods settled into their domains. Others were formed by high magic during the height of empires like Netheril or Imaskari, civilizations that treated the plains as mere resource colonies. And some, particularly those in Sigil, simply are. They exist because the multiverse requires circulation, just as a living body requires veins. When you set out to find a portal, you are looking for an anomaly. On the prime material, nature abhors a straight line. Trees grow gnarly, rivers meander, mountains are jagged. If you find a perfect circle of mushrooms, a perfectly rectangular archway of stone standing alone in a moor, or a doorway that stands upright despite having no building behind it, you have found a candidate. But perception is tricky. The weave, the magical matrix that overlays the world, often disguises these places. A portal might look like a mundane cave entrance to the uninitiated. To the person who has no desire to leave, it is a cave. They walk in, they find a bear, they walk out. But to you, holding the specific thought of the beastlands, or carrying a sprig of razor vine, that same cave entrance might shimmer. The air might grow cold. The darkness inside might turn a shade of violet. And when you walk in, you do not find a bear. You find the infinite savannas of the beastlands. This is the fundamental danger of portal seeking. The portal does not always announce itself. It waits. In this guide, we will not merely discuss the mechanics. We will discuss the survival of your mind. For when you step through that frame, you are leaving behind the physics you understand. You are entering a place where belief alters matter, where gravity is subjective, and where the air itself might be composed of the thoughts of a dead god. To prepare yourself, you must shed your reliance on the cardinal directions. North, south, east, and west belong to the prime. In the plains, the directions are darker: spireward, anti-peak, coreward, rimward, or even more abstract, toward law, toward chaos. Are you ready to abandon the solid earth? Are you ready to trust that the ground will catch you when you step into the void? Hold that thought. Secure your pack. Check your components. The first step is understanding that the door is there. The second step is understanding how to knock. Oh, are still with me? Good. The fire has burned down a little, the coals glowing with that deep, steady heat that reminds one of the heart of a forge. It is fitting, for now we must speak of metal, of craftsmanship, and of the precise, exacting science of the arcane. While the natural world is full of accidental slips and soft spots, the seams we discussed earlier, the disciplined mind does not wait for an accident. The wizard, the sorcerer, the high priest, these individuals do not wander the woods looking for a fairy ring. They demand entrance. They forge keys. They bend the laws of the great wheel to their will through the application of high magic. Specifically, we must discuss the mechanics of the spell known to scholars as plane shift, and its more violent, authoritative cousin, gate. To the uninitiated, casting a spell seems like a mere incantation, a wiggle of fingers and a word, but you know better. You know that magic is the manipulation of the weave, the restructuring of reality's tapestry, forgive me, the restructuring of reality's very fabric. When it comes to planar travel, this manipulation must be exact. A fireball that misses its target by a foot still burns. A planar shift that misses its harmonic frequency by a fraction of a tone does not merely fail. It shreds the caster across the astral sea, leaving pieces of their consciousness drifting like flotsam for eternity. The primary tool for this delicate operation is the tuning fork. In the standard texts of the arcane, you will read a simple requirement: a forked metal rod worth at least 250 gold pieces, attuned to a particular plane of existence. This description is woefully, dangerously inadequate. It is like describing a legendary sword as a sharp piece of metal. Let us examine the tuning fork. It is not merely a component, it is a compass. It is a lightning rod. The multiverse, in all its infinite complexity, is built upon vibration. Every plane of existence sings a specific song. The chaotic winds of limbo scream in a discordant, ever-changing cacophony. The clockwork gears of Mechanus hum in a perfect, rhythmic basso profundo. The seven heavens of Mount Celestia ring with a crystalline choral harmony that brings tears to the eyes of mortals. The prime material plane has its own hum, a neutral white noise that drowns out the others. To leave the prime, you must strike a fork that vibrates so perfectly in sync with your destination that the universe momentarily confuses where you are. You trick reality into thinking you are already in the nine hells. And so, physics corrects the error, and you are pulled there. The creation of these forks is a lost art in many ages, kept alive by the planar cartographers and the guilds of travel. You cannot simply cast gold into a mold and hope for the best. The metallurgy is spiritual as much as it is physical. For the upper planes, the celestial realms of good, precious metals are required. A tuning fork for Mount Celestia is almost always cast from pure gold, mined from a vein that has never seen the light of a blood-red moon. It must be tempered in holy water and struck with a hammer blessed by a solar. When struck, it emits a note so high and pure it is almost inaudible to the human ear, a vibration that makes the teeth ache with sweetness. For the lower planes, the fiendish realms. The materials are baser, harsher. A fork for the 9 hells of Badr is typically wrought from cold iron, not just iron that is cold to the touch, but cold iron, the alchemically treated metal that is anathema to Fae and chaos. It is heavy, dull, and absorbs light. To attune it, one must quench the hot metal not in water, but in the blood of a devil, or perhaps in the brackish water of the river Styx. When struck, it does not ring, it thuds. It produces a subsonic vibration that causes nausea and a sense of impending doom. For the chaotic planes, the construction is even more difficult. How do you tune a fork to a plane that refuses to stay the same shape? A fork for limbo is often made of an alloy of copper and zinc, stabilized with lead. But the prongs are often uneven, or the metal is poured while the caster is under the influence of a confusion spell. And then there is the abyss. To fashion a key for the abyss is to invite madness. These forks are often jagged, made of rusted iron mixed with powdered demon bone. They are ugly things, painful to hold. Once the fork is crafted, it must be attuned. This is the part of the process that requires travel, which creates a cruel paradox. To make the key to go there, you must have already been there, or possess something that has. A wizard cannot simply sit in their tower in Waterdeep and create a fork for the elemental plane of fire. They must expose the metal to the energies of that plane. This is why planar forks are among the most coveted treasures in a wizard's library. A set of forks, a bandolier of steel, gold, and copper rods, is a library of passports. To steal a wizard's forks is to strand them on the prime. Now, consider the casting of the spell itself. Plane Shift is a spell of the 7th circle. It requires a magnitude of power that most spellcasters will never achieve. The caster holds the fork in one hand. They strike it against their knee, against a stone, or simply with a fingernail. The fork sings. The caster must then focus their entire will upon that sound. They must let the sound fill their mind, displacing the sensory input of the room they are standing in. The smell of the library must be replaced by the smell of ozone or brimstone. The sight of the walls must dissolve into the vision of the destination. And then, the somatic component, the reach. The caster reaches out, not through space, but through the dimensional barrier. If they are taking others with them, up to 8 companions, standing in a linked circle, the magic must encompass them all. The transition of plane shift is not gentle. It is often described as a hook behind the navel. There is a sensation of being pulled inside out, a moment of absolute, crushing darkness, and then a sudden, violent reassembly. The air pressure changes instantly. The gravity might shift. The light is different, and there is the matter of accuracy. The tuning fork is an analog device in a digital multiverse. It is imprecise. You are striking a tone and riding the echo. Because of this, plane shift rarely deposits you exactly where you intend. You might visualize the city of brass, aiming for the bazaar near the Sultan's palace. the spell might drop you 5 miles away, in the middle of a charcoal plain, or 300 miles away, near the Sea of Fire. This inaccuracy is a safety feature of the cosmos. The rulers of the planes, the archdevils, the demon lords, the paragons, ward their citadels against direct teleportation. You cannot simply plane shift into Asmodeus's throne room. The local laws of physics in the hells will shove your arrival point off target, sometimes dropping you directly into a pit of sludge or a regiment of bearded devils as a punishment for your rudeness. Therefore, the smart traveler uses plane shift to get to the region, not the doorstep. It is a long-distance transit, not a tactical maneuver. Now, let us speak of the greater magic, the gate spell. If plane shift is slipping through a crack in the wall, gate is taking a sledgehammer to the masonry. Gate is magic of the ninth circle, the apex of mortal spellcasting. It does not rely on the subtle resonance of a tuning fork. It relies on the raw, unadulterated command of the caster over reality. When a wizard casts gate, they are grabbing the fabric of the prime material and the fabric of the destination plane, and tearing a hole through both, stitching the edges together to form a stable portal. Visually, a gate is terrifying. It does not shimmer like a mirage. It looks like a rupture. It is a two-dimensional disc, usually about 20 feet in diameter, standing upright. Through it, you do not see a hazy representation of the other side. You see the other side as clearly as if you were looking through a window. The primary advantage of the gate is precision. There is no margin of error. If you name a location, the gate opens there. If you wish to open a door into the bedchamber of a Lich Queen, the gate will open, provided no divine power prevents it. Furthermore, gate allows for two-way travel. Plane shift transports the caster and then ends. Gate remains open for a duration, usually up to 1 minute, depending on the caster's concentration. This allows for armies to march through, or for a retreat to be made. But the true power and the true danger of the gate spell lies in its secondary function, the calling. A caster can use a gate not just to go, but to pull. By speaking the true name of a being, a celestial, a fiend, a deity's avatar, the caster can force the portal to open in that being's immediate vicinity and draw them through to the caster's side. This is the height of hubris. To drag a Balor from the abyss into your study is a feat of magic, yes, but it is also a tactical nightmare. The entity arrives unbound, usually furious, and immediately capable of violence. There are other, lesser arcane methods, though they are limited. The spell etherealness allows one to step into the border ethereal, the ghostly echo that overlaps the prime. This is technically planar travel, but it is local. You are still here, just out of phase. It is like stepping behind a curtain. You can see the room you left, gray and misty, but you cannot touch it. This is useful for bypassing walls, but it will not get you to the heavens or the hells. It is merely a sidestep. We must also address the accidental arcane portals, the hazards of interacting magical items. You have likely heard the warnings given to young apprentices regarding the bag of holding and the portable hole. These items rely on extra-dimensional spaces, tiny, folded pockets of reality. They are safe enough on their own. But if you place a portable hole inside a bag of holding, or vice versa, you are creating a mathematical impossibility. You are trying to fold a fold inside a fold. The result is not an explosion in the conventional sense. It is a rupture. A tear forms in the astral plane, sucking everything within a 10-foot radius into the astral sea. The items are destroyed. The gateway closes instantly, and the traveler is left floating in the silver void, likely without a tuning fork to get home. This is a one-way ticket and a very expensive way to travel. There is a psychological toll to these arcane methods. To cast plane shift is to reject the reality of your birth. To hold the tuning fork of the Shadowfell is to invite the despair of that plane into your heart before you even leave your room. The wizard who travels often begins to detach from the prime. They become planar touched in spirit, if not in body. The food of the prime tastes bland. The colors seem washed out. They start to crave the vivid intensity of the outer planes. And what if the fork is flawed? Imagine a tuning fork for the elemental plane of water. It is made of coral and silver. But suppose it has a hairline fracture, invisible to the naked eye. When you strike it, the note is slightly warped. It vibrates with the frequency of water, but the fracture introduces a dissonance of vacuum. You cast the spell. The magic grabs you, but it cannot resolve the destination. You might be deposited in the boundary method zones, where water meets salt and silt, blinding and choking you. Or worse, you might be caught in the mid-transit. You might materialize inside a solid object, a block of ice, a coral reef. The universe, finding two objects in the same space, will shunt you to the nearest open space, usually dealing catastrophic damage to your body in the process. This is known as teleportation mishap, but on a planar scale, it is often fatal. Therefore, the prudent arcanist cares for their forks, as a knight cares for their blade. They are wrapped in velvet, kept in lead-lined boxes to prevent sympathetic vibration from stray magic, and polished daily. But not everyone is a wizard. Not everyone has the intellect to master the seventh circle of magic, nor the coin to purchase a rod of solid gold. For the rogue, the warrior, the commoner seeking a lost love, these arcane elevators are out of reach. They must walk. They must find the roads that were laid down before the gods were born. They must find the colors. In the next section of our guide, we will step away from the laboratory and into the void itself. We will discuss the transitive highways, the swirling mists of the ethereal and the silvery emptiness of the astral, and how to navigate the curtains and pools that serve as the off-ramps of the multiverse. Prepare yourself. The air is about to get very thin. Oh, are doing well. You have the theory of the tuning fork, and you understand the gravity of the spell. But spells are sudden. They are violent jerks of the universe's curtain. Sometimes one wishes to travel not by teleportation, but by transit. Sometimes you must walk the road to see where it leads. If the prime material plane is a house, and the outer planes are the cities surrounding it, then we must now speak of the roads. We must speak of the transitive planes. There are two great oceans in which the multiverse floats: the misty, ghost-haunted ethereal plane, and the silvery, timeless void of the astral plane. Let us step off the edge of the map. First, the ethereal. Imagine you are standing in a dense fog. It is cool, damp, and smells of ozone and dust. This is the ethereal plane. It is the glue of the inner cosmology, binding the prime material to the elemental planes of fire, water, earth, and air. It is the realm of potential, of proto-matter, stuff that hasn't quite decided to be real yet. When you first step out of reality, using a spell like etherealness, or slipping through a natural variance, you enter the border ethereal. This is the shallow end of the pool. Here, you are a ghost. You look back at the world you left and you see it, but it is washed out. The vibrant greens of the forest are dull gray. The roaring fire in the hearth is a pale, translucent white that offers no heat. You can see the people you love, but they cannot see you. You can shout until your throat bleeds, but they will not hear you. You can walk through their walls, drift through their floors. This is a lonely place. It is the realm of phase spiders, ghosts, and things that watch from the corners of your vision. But you are not here to haunt. You are here to travel. To leave the prime behind, you must push deeper. You must will yourself away from the gray echoes of the material world and into the deep ethereal. Here, the world disappears. There is no ground, no sky. There is only the mist. It roils and churns, glowing with a soft, diffuse luminescence. In the deep ethereal, distance is a lie. You do not measure travel in miles, you measure it in hours of concentration. You do not walk with your legs, you move by fixing your mind on a destination. And then you see them. The curtains, floating in the mist like auroras, vast and shimmering, are the ethereal curtains. These are the true portals of the deep ethereal. They are vaporous walls of color that stretch endlessly in all directions. They are the boundaries of the planes. You must know your colors here, traveler, or you will step into a world that will kill you instantly. If you see a curtain of bright turquoise, do not fear. That is the color of the prime material. It leads back to the world of solid matter, perhaps your world, or perhaps an alternate prime, a different crystal sphere entirely. If you see a curtain of pale blue, you are looking at the elemental plane of air. Stepping through feels like falling. If you see a curtain of reddish brown, the color of dried blood or rich clay, you have found the plane of earth. If you see a curtain of vibrant orange, bright and searing to the eyes, turn back unless you are warded against heat. That is the elemental plane of fire. And counter to what your intuition might tell you, if you see a curtain of emerald green, you are looking at the elemental plane of water. In the deep syntax of the cosmos, water is green, not blue. Passing through a curtain is a physical sensation. It resists you, like walking through a heavy tapestry or a waterfall. And then you are through. You are no longer in the deep ethereal. You are in the border ethereal of your destination. The mist clears slightly, and you see the burning oceans of the plane of fire, or the floating islands of the plane of air, gray and ghostly at first, until you manifest fully. But perhaps you do not seek the elements. Perhaps you seek the gods. Perhaps you seek the heavens or the hells. For that, the ethereal is useless to you. The ethereal connects the physical. It does not touch the spiritual. To reach the outer planes, you must leave the mist and find the silver void. You must enter the astral plane. The transition to the astral is jarring. The damp fog of the ethereal vanishes. Suddenly, there is nothing. You are floating in a vast silver sea. The light here is constant, a cool gray-white illumination that casts no shadows. There is no air, yet you can breathe. There is no gravity, yet you have weight. There is no time. Pause on that thought. There is no time. On the astral plane, 1,000 years can pass, and you will not age a single second. You will not grow hungry. You will not grow tired. A mortal could float here for eons, watching the empires of their home world rise and turn to dust, while they remain preserved in amber. But be warned, if you leave the astral, all that time catches up to you in a heartbeat. Travelers who spend decades here and then step back onto the prime often crumble to dust the moment their foot touches the ground. Movement here is entirely cerebral. In the ethereal, you drift. In the astral, you fly by thought. Your physical strength means nothing here. A giant with muscles like tree trunks moves sluggishly if his mind is slow. A frail, elderly wizard with a razor-sharp intellect darts through the void like a hummingbird. Your intelligence score is your speed. As you float through this silver emptiness, you will see debris, broken swords of dead gods, petrified corpses of leviathans, drifting chunks of rock that were once parts of worlds that have been forgotten. But you are looking for the color pools. The astral plane connects the prime material to the outer planes, the realms of belief, alignment, and divinity. The portals here do not look like curtains. They look like two-dimensional discs, flat pools of liquid color suspended in the void, usually anywhere from 10 to 50 feet in diameter. From a distance, they look like stars. Up close, they are swirling vortices. Again, you must know the code. The cant of colors here is different from the ethereal. You are looking for a pool of gold, pure, radiant gold. This is the portal to Mount Celestia, the seven heavens. It sings with a low, comforting hum. If you see a pool of ruby red, glistening like wet blood, steer clear. That leads to the 9 hells of Badr. Even standing near it, you will feel a phantom heat and hear the scratching of quills on parchment. A pool of amethyst, a deep, swirling purple, leads to the abyss. It pulses erratically, like a diseased heart. Sapphire blue leads to Arborea, the realm of passions and elves. Diamond blue leads to Mechanus, the plane of absolute law. Jet black leads to Limbo, the churning chaos. When you dive into a color pool, the sensation is not of resistance, but of being swallowed. The silver void is replaced instantly by the environment of the outer plane. Gravity reasserts itself. Time begins to tick again. There is one final, crucial distinction you must understand about these highways, a detail that determines whether you are a tourist or a traveler. The silver cord. If you use the spell Astral Projection, your soul leaves your body on the prime material. You appear in the astral, and tethering you back to your sleeping form is a shimmering silver cord. It trails behind you, infinite in length, unbreakable by almost any force save the blade of a Githyanki silver sword. If you have this cord, you are safe. If you die in the astral, your cord snaps you back to your body. You wake up in your bed, shaken, perhaps with a headache, but alive. But if you find a physical portal, a gate, a rupture, and you step bodily into the astral plane, you have no cord. You are there, meat and bone. If you die there, you are dead. Your body floats in the silver void forever, just another piece of debris for the Githyanki to salvage. Most who seek portals are not projecting. They are moving. They are risking it all. These are the highways of the multiverse, the mist and the void. They are the long way around. They are the spaces between the pages of the book. But sometimes you don't need a highway. Sometimes you are walking through a forest on the prime material, and the light hits the leaves in a strange way. And suddenly, you aren't in the forest anymore. Sometimes the plains bleed. The fire is crackling now, a sudden pop of sap and heat that makes you blink. It is a small, violent reminder of the energy trapped within the wood. In our previous discussions, we spoke of the deliberate, the wizard in the tower with his tuning fork, the cleric praying for a miracle, the traveler diving into the silver void of the astral. These are acts of will. They are intrusions upon the universe, but the universe does not always wait to be intruded upon. Sometimes the universe intrudes upon you. There are places in the prime material plane where the walls of reality are not just thin, they are porous. They are like a sieve or a bandage that has not been changed in too long. In these places, the other planes, specifically the parallel planes and the elemental planes, do not need a spell to enter. They bleed through. They infect the local geography with their essence until the distinction between here and there becomes meaningless. To find a portal, you often need only to find a place where the world feels wrong, or perhaps where it feels too right. We call these phenomena natural bleeds. They are the trapdoors of the cosmos, and the most common among them lead to the echo planes, the Feywild and the Shadowfell. Let us walk first toward the light. Let us speak of Fey crossings. The Feywild, or the plane of fairy, is the bright reflection of the prime. It is a place of emotion, of unrestrained nature, of magic that runs wild and hot in the veins of the earth. It occupies the same cosmological space as the prime material, overlapping it perfectly. If you are sitting in a chair in the prime, there is a version of that chair in the Feywild. but it might be grown from living oak, singing a soft melody, and covered in moss that tastes like honey. Fey crossings occur where the natural world on the Prime is exceptionally vibrant. They are rarely found in cities, unless it is in an ancient, overgrown park or a garden tended by a druid of profound power. You must look for the thin times and the thin places. The thin times are the transitions, dawn and dusk, the moments when the sun is not quite up and not quite down, when the light possesses that golden, hazy quality that makes depth perception difficult. Midsummer's Eve is a notorious time for these bleeds. The signs of a Fey crossing are subtle but undeniable to the trained eye. You might be walking through a dense forest. The air suddenly smells sweeter, like blooming jasmine and ozone, even in the dead of winter. The colors around you, the green of the leaves, the brown of the bark, begin to vibrate. They become hyperreal, more vivid than your eyes can naturally process. Look for the geometry of nature. A perfect circle of mushrooms, a fairy ring, is the most famous example, and for good reason. It is a localized portal. Stepping into the center of the ring during twilight can shift you instantly. But look also for mirrors. A pool of water so still it reflects the sky without a single ripple, even when the wind is blowing. An archway formed by two trees that have grown together over centuries, their branches woven into a seamless knot. The danger of a Fey crossing is that it is seductive. The portal does not frighten you, it invites you. You hear music, faint, piping flutes, or distant laughter. That triggers a deep nostalgia for a place you have never been. You follow the sound. You step through the archway. And suddenly, the sun is in a different place. The trees are 3 times as tall. The forest is alive, and it is watching you. You have crossed over. And here lies the peril of the natural bleed, time dilation. When you use a plane shift spell, you are usually protected by the magic structure. But when you wander into the Feywild through a natural crossing, you are subject to the whims of Fey time. You might spend what feels like an afternoon dancing with dryads or exploring a crystal cave. When you step back through the crossing to go home, you may find that 100 years have passed on the Prime. Your family is dead. Your home is dust. You are a relic of a forgotten age. Now, let us turn away from the light. Let us look into the dark corners. The Shadowfell, the plane of shadow, is the dark reflection. It is the echo of decay, of entropy, of memory without emotion. If the Feywild is the world with the volume turned up to 11, the Shadowfell is the world with the volume muted. Shadow crossings are born of tragedy and gloom. They form in places where death has been heavy, or where despair has soaked into the stones. A battlefield where an army was slaughtered and left to rot. A plague pit, a torture chamber in a dungeon that has not seen light for 1,000 years. Or simply a lonely, mist-shrouded moor where the sun never seems to fully break through the clouds. The sensation of approaching a shadow crossing is physical. The temperature drops. It is not a clean winter cold. It is a damp, seeping chill that settles in your marrow. The light seems to get sucked out of the air. Shadows stretch longer than they should, and they do not always move in sync with the object casting them. You might look into a dark corner of a room and realize the darkness has depth. It is not just an absence of light, it is a presence of shadow. It swirls. In urban environments, shadow crossings are dangerously common. A blind alley in a slum where the destitute go to die. A crypt in a forgotten cemetery. The crossing manifests as a fog that rises from the ground, or a corridor that seems to extend endlessly into darkness. Unlike the Fey crossing, which lures you with beauty, the shadow crossing captures you through apathy. You feel tired. You feel heavy. You just want to sit down in the dark and rest. If you succumb to that feeling, if you stop moving, the Shadowfell rises up to claim you. The prime material fades away, replaced by the color-leached landscape of the shadow. The sky becomes a featureless void of black stars. The colors of your own clothes fade to gray. You have fallen through the floor of the world. Finally, we must speak of the most violent of natural portals, the elemental vortices. While the echo planes overlap us, the elemental planes, fire, water, earth, air, encircle us. They are the building blocks of matter. Usually, they are stable. But in places of extreme elemental intensity, the barrier ruptures. These are not places you stumble into. These are places you survive. A vortex to the plane of fire is almost always found in the heart of an active volcano, or the center of a forest fire, so intense it creates its own weather system. The heat becomes impossible. It ceases to be physical heat and becomes metaphysical incineration. The lava bubbles not with gas, but with living magma methods. If you descend into the crater, you do not hit the bottom. You pass through the membrane and fall into the cinder wastes or the sea of fire. A vortex to the plane of water exists in the deepest trenches of the ocean, where the pressure is enough to crush a submarine like a tin can. There are no bubbles here. The water becomes lightless and infinitely deep. A swimmer or a drowning sailor might be pulled down by a current that defies the tides, spinning them into the vortex. They do not drown, for they pass into a realm where there is no surface to reach. They are suddenly in the plane of water, suspended in an endless, lightless ocean, surrounded by leviathans. A vortex to the plane of air is found at the peaks of the highest mountains, the places where the air is too thin to breathe. In the eye of a hurricane, where the wind speeds tear buildings apart, a temporary vortex can open. A creature caught in the storm isn't just thrown across the county. They are thrown into the endless blue skies of the airplane, falling forever unless they can fly. And the vortex to the plane of earth, it is in the crushing dark of the Underdark. Deep, deep down, where the rock presses in from all sides. A caver might crawl through a tight squeeze, a squeeze that should be impassable. The stone rubs against their skin, rough and cold, and then the squeeze opens up, not into a cave, but into the living rock of the plane of earth. They are entombed unless they can find an air pocket or a Dow mining tunnel. Identifying these natural bleeds requires a shift in your awareness. You must stop looking at the world as a static painting and start seeing it as a living, breathing organism. A patch of gloom is not just a lack of light. It might be a door to the grave. A sunbeam hitting a waterfall is not just pretty. It might be a path to the court of the summer queen. Travelers who rely on these natural portals are often druids, rangers, or desperate fugitives. They do not have keys. They do not have spells. They wait for the stars to align or the fog to rise. They use the rhythms of the world to slip between the cracks. But for those of us who prefer a more civilized approach, for those who wish to go where they want, when they want, without waiting for a hurricane or a tragedy, we must go to the city that holds them all. We must go to the center. We must go to Sigil. Gather your things. Check your pockets. We are leaving the wild places behind. We are going to the cage. Shift your chair away from the window now, for where we are going, the sky is not a comforting blanket of blue or a canopy of stars. Where we are going, the sky is a crowded street and the clouds are smog. We are leaving the natural world entirely. We are leaving the logic of planets and spheres. We are going to the center. If the great wheel is a wheel, then we are journeying to the axle. We are traveling to Sigil, the city of doors, the cage. To speak of portals without speaking of Sigil is like speaking of oceans without mentioning the tide. It is impossible. This city is the grand central station of existence, the beating heart of the planar trade, and the single most densely populated collection of gateways in the multiverse. First, you must understand the geography, or rather, the impossible geometry of the place. Imagine the Outlands. It is the plane of neutrality, a flat, infinite disk at the center of the outer planes, and rising from the center of that disk is the spire. It is a needle of stone that is infinitely tall. I do not mean it is very tall, I mean it has no top. It pierces the sky and keeps going, and yet floating at the pinnacle of this infinite spire, defying all logic and gravity, is a torus, a donut shape, a ring. This ring is Sigil. Because it sits atop the infinite spire, it is technically equidistant from all other planes. It is the absolute center. But the city of doors does not welcome you with open arms. It is a closed system. There is no sun in Sigil. There is no moon. The city is illuminated by a pervasive, ambient light that waxes and wanes to simulate a day and night cycle, though the night is never truly dark, merely a dim, smog-choked twilight. The light seems to emanate from the air itself, or perhaps from the luminous pollution that hangs heavy over the cobblestones. If you were to stand in the middle of a street in the lower ward and look up, you would not see the heavens. You would see the other side of the city. You would see the chimneys and rooftops of the houses on the opposite side of the ring, curving up and overhead until they vanished into the haze. It is a claustrophobic sensation for the uninitiated, the feeling that the city is closing in on you, that you are trapped inside a bottle. And you are trapped. This is the most important rule of Sigil, the rule that defines it as the ultimate hub of portals. You cannot get in or out by conventional means. Recall the spells we discussed: plane shift, gate, teleportation circle. In Sigil, they are useless. The city is hermetically sealed against planar magic. A wizard of the 20th level can scream incantations until their voice fails, but they cannot blink out of the city. A deity cannot force a gate open here. The bounds of the city are absolute. This is the work of the Lady of Pain. We must tread carefully when we speak of her. In Sigil, one does not worship the Lady. One does not pray to her. One fears her, and one avoids her shadow. She is the mute, enigmatic ruler of the city, a floating entity roughly the size of a human, draped in bladed robes, her face a mask of cold metal wreathed in shimmering blades. She never speaks. She has no priests. She is the lock. She is the reason the portals function as they do. Because you cannot fly out, the air simply ends, leading to an infinite void. And you cannot spellcast your way out. The only way to leave or enter Sigil is through a portal. And in Sigil, everything is a portal. This is not hyperbole. In the prime material, a portal is a rare anomaly, a circle of mushrooms, or a wizard's construct. In Sigil, any bounded space can serve as a doorway to another dimension. Consider the architecture of the city. It is a haphazard mess of styles, Gothic spires crashing into industrial smokestacks, marble palaces built atop slums of rusted iron. It is a city built on the refuse of the multiverse, and amidst this chaos are millions of frames. A doorway to a tavern, a window in a boarding house, an archway in a garden, a sewer grate, the space between the legs of a statue, a picture frame hanging on a wall, a loop of rope lying on the cobblestones. Any of these can be a portal. Most of them are. This density creates a unique ecosystem of travel. A citizen of Sigil, often called a cutter or a planewalker, might live in a tenement in the hive. To buy bread, they might walk through a door that leads to the market in the elven city of Evermeet on Toril, buy a loaf, and step back through another door that leads to the clerk's ward in Sigil. To them, the multiverse is not a distant concept. It is their commute. But these portals are not open all the time. If they were, the atmosphere of the plane of water would flood the streets, or the demons of the abyss would overrun the city, though there are enough demons here already, drinking peacefully in the bars. The portals of Sigil shift. They are fickle. Permanent portals. The grand gate to the Outlands, for instance, is always there, always open. These are the trade routes, the arteries through which the merchandise of the plains flows. Armies march through these. Temporary portals. They appear for a week, a month, a year, and then vanish, shifting their connection to a different plane. A doorway that led to the Beastlands yesterday might lead to Carcery tomorrow. This is the danger of the city. You might step out for a pint of ale and find yourself trapped in a prison plane because the door you came in through changed its mind. Shifting portals. These are portals that move physically. There is a famous story of a portal to Asgard that exists within the mouth of a stray cat. To enter Asgard, you must find the cat. The geography of the city is divided into wards, and the nature of the portals often reflects the nature of the ward. Let us walk through them, keeping our hands on our coin purses, for Sigil is not safe. The Hive Ward. This is the slum, the festering sore of the city. Here, the portals are jagged, ugly things. They lead to the lower planes, the abyss, Badr, Gehenna. You might find a portal to the gray waste of Hades inside a burnt-out oven in a collapsing bakery. The air here smells of despair and cheap liquor. The people here are the desperate, the lost, the clueless primes who arrived by accident and can't find a way home. The portals here are traps. A drunkard stumbles into a dark alley and wakes up on a hook in a devil's larder. The lower ward, the industrial heart. The smog here is thick enough to chew. The portals here are functional, heavy, and industrial. They lead to the planes of production and resource, the plane of earth for ore, the plane of fire for heat to power the great foundries. Here, portals are guarded by guilds and factions. You do not simply walk through, you pay a toll. The Doom Guard and the believers of the Source hold sway here, controlling access to the furnaces of creation. The Clerk's Ward, the domain of bureaucracy. Here, the streets are cleaner, the buildings more orderly. The portals here are documented. They are cataloged in the great libraries. They lead to places of law and civilization, Mechanus, Arcadia. If you want to travel safely with paperwork in hand, you come here. But the bureaucracy of Sigil is a labyrinth in itself. You might spend years waiting for the permit to use a specific archway. The Market Ward, the Bazaar of the Infinite. Here, portals are commerce. You will see merchants from the city of brass selling rugs, woven from living flame, alongside illithids selling bottled memories. The portals here connect to the great trade cities of the multiverse. A stall might essentially be a portal frame, with the shopkeeper handing goods through from a warehouse on another plane. The Guildhall Ward, similar to the market, but more exclusive. This is where the craftsmen live. The portals here are secrets, trade routes known only to the masters of the crafts. The Ladies' Ward, the height of opulence and power. The streets are patrolled by the Dabbas, the floating, silent servants of the lady who speak in rebuses, visual puzzles floating in the air. The portals here are golden gates, marble arches, garden trellises covered in silver roses. They lead to the upper plains, Mount Celestia, Bitopia, Elysium. This is where the high-ups live. The temples are here, though the gods themselves are barred, their worshippers are not. But there is a presence here that you must acknowledge. The razorvine. It is everywhere. It is a black, creeping ivy with leaves as sharp as obsidian daggers. It grows on every wall, chokes every alley, climbs every tower. It grows inches by the hour. If you stand still too long, it will grow over your boots. It is the city's way of cleaning up. If a body is left in the gutter, the razorvine covers it, cuts it apart, and consumes it. Why do I mention the vine? Because it hides the portals. A portal frame covered in razor vine is a treacherous thing. You must hack your way through the thorns to reach the destination. Many a traveler has bled to death trying to reach a door to Elysium, entangled in the sharp embrace of the city's flora. Living in Sigil requires a different mindset. You are not a citizen of a nation. You are a rat in a maze. The term cage is not used lightly. While the portals offer infinite freedom, they are also the bars. The lady controls them. If she wishes to close a portal, it closes. If she wishes to isolate the city, the doors simply stop working. She can lock the entire population inside with a thought. And then there are the mazes. If you disrupt the peace of Sigil, if you try to incite a war between fiends, if you worship the lady too loudly, if you threaten the stability of the cage, the lady does not kill you. That would be too simple. She casts a shadow over you, and in the next instant, you are gone. You are transported to a maze. This is a pocket dimension, a personal labyrinth designed specifically for you. It is infinite, empty, and inescapable. There is only one portal out of a maze, and it is hidden somewhere in the endless twisting corridors. Some spend lifetimes looking for the exit. Some go mad. Some starve. This is the price of living at the center. You have access to everywhere, but you belong nowhere. Sigil is the ultimate lesson in portal theory. A portal is not just a hole in the air. It is a mechanism of control. It is a resource to be fought over. Wars in Sigil are not fought for territory. They are fought for keys. A faction that controls the portal to the plane of salt controls the preservation of food for the entire city. A faction that controls the portal to the armories of Acheron controls the flow of weapons. To find a portal in Sigil is easy. To know where it goes is harder. To have the means to open it, that is the true secret. For in Sigil, a door is just a frame until you have the key. And unlike the tuning forks of the wizards, the keys of Sigil are poetic, obscure, and often completely mundane. You could be standing in front of a portal to the seven heavens, and it will refuse to open because you are not humming the right tune. You could be running from a pack of demons, desperate for the portal to the prime to open, but it remains shut because you do not have a rose in your pocket. We have arrived at the most delicate part of our study. We have found the door. We have identified the frame. Now, we must learn how to unlock it. Prepare your mind for abstraction. Logic will not help you here. Only intuition and the knowledge of the portal keys will save you now. Now, look at your hands. Turn them over. Examine the calluses, the lines on your palms, the dust beneath your fingernails. In the city of Sigil, and indeed across the breadth of the multiverse, what you hold in your hands is often more important than the sword strapped to your back or the spell locked in your mind. We have established that the multiverse is a house of doors. We have established that Sigil is a cage made of exits, but a door is merely an obstruction if it is locked. And in the Great Wheel, almost every door is locked. To open them, you need a key. But you must discard your understanding of that word. You are likely picturing a piece of jagged metal, cut by a locksmith, inserted into a tumbling mechanism. That is a mechanical key for a mechanical lock. The portals of the planes are not mechanical, they are metaphysical. They do not respond to tumblers, they respond to resonance. The philosophy of the key is the study of sympathetic magic. It is the understanding that to go somewhere, you must already possess a piece of that place, or at least a piece of the idea of that place. Let us categorize these keys. For a planewalker who does not sort their inventory is a planewalker who does not return. First, and most common, is the physical key. If you were to empty the pockets of a seasoned cage dweller, you would find what looks like a pile of garbage. A dried apple core, a rusty nail, a piece of blue glass, a feather, a small gear, a vial of tears. To the uninitiated, this is refuse. To the walker, this is a library of passports. The physical key functions on the principle of material connection. The item anchors the portal's destination to the current location. Consider a portal leading to the elemental plane of water. The frame might be a simple archway in a bathhouse, but to step through it and reach the citadel of 10,000 pearls, you might need to hold a seashell. Not just any shell, perhaps, but a shell that has never seen the sun. Or perhaps a vial of salt water. The logic is obvious. Water calls to water. But the logic can be darker. Consider a portal to the abyss. The abyss is the plane of chaotic evil, of destruction and entropy. What resonates with that? A key to the abyss might be the skull of a murderer. It might be a weapon that has taken the life of an innocent. It might be a piece of iron that has been rusted completely through. To enter the lower realms, you must often carry something vile. This is a subtle corruption. To travel to evil places, you must burden yourself with evil things. Conversely, a portal to Mount Celestia, the plane of justice and mercy, might require a silver coin that was given freely as charity. If you stole the coin, the portal will not open. If you earned the coin, it will not open. It must be a coin of charity. The universe knows the history of the object. You cannot trick the resonance. Second, there is the somatic key. Sometimes, the key is not what you hold, but what you do. The portal requires a gesture, a movement, a specific configuration of the body to acknowledge the transition. These keys are often tied to the nature of the destination's philosophy. To enter a portal leading to limbo, the plane of pure chaos, you might need to walk through the archway backwards. Why? Because limbo defies order. Walking forward is a linear, orderly progression. Walking backwards is contrary. It creates a dissonance that aligns with the chaotic winds of the destination. To enter a portal leading to Badr, the 9 hells, the key might be to bow. A stiff, formal bow of submission before the gate. The hells are built on hierarchy and domination. By bowing, you are physically acknowledging the law of the plane, that you are lesser and the hierarchy is greater. The portal accepts your submission and opens. To enter the beastlands, you might need to growl or walk on all fours. These keys can be embarrassing. They can be subtle. A traveler might simply need to touch the left side of the frame with their right hand, or they might need to close their eyes. Imagine the trust required to walk through a portal with your eyes closed, not knowing if you will step onto a cloud in Asgard or a lava field in Gehenna. Third, and most elusive, is the cognitive key. These are the keys of the mind. They are thoughts, memories, or emotions. They are the most dangerous because they require mental discipline that few possess in a moment of crisis. A portal to the plane of Elysium, the plane of neutral good and rest, might require you to think of a moment of perfect peace. You must hold that memory in the forefront of your mind, the smell of your mother's cooking, the feeling of the sun on your face after a long winter, and step through. If your mind wavers, if you let fear or anxiety slip in for a split second, the portal remains a stone arch. You walk through and simply bump into the wall on the other side, a portal to pandemonium. The plane of madness and wind might require you to scream. But not just a vocal scream, an internal scream of panic. You must make yourself afraid. You must induce a state of localized hysteria to unlock the door. The planar key spell exists, yes, but it is high magic. Most people must rely on these analog methods, and this creates a thriving, cutthroat economy of information. In Sigil, knowing the key is often more valuable than the key itself. Imagine you are running from the harmonium guards. You turn a corner into a dead-end alley. You know from the chant, the local gossip, that the sewer grate at the end of the alley is a portal to the outlands. You rush toward it. You stand on it. Nothing happens. You need the key. Is it a word? Is it a coin? Is it a gesture? The guards are turning the corner. You are seconds away from arrest. You desperately search your memory. Was it a copper piece? You drop a copper piece through the grate. Nothing. Was it a tune? You hum a bar of a drinking song. Nothing. Then you remember. The outlands is the plane of neutrality. True neutrality. Balance. You stop moving. You calm your breathing. You clear your mind of fear, of anger, of hope. You make yourself a vessel of indifference. The grate shimmers. The bars turn to mist. You drop through, leaving the guards staring at an empty sewer drain. This is the game you play. However, there is a complication: key rotation. The keys are not static. Just as the portals in Sigil drift and vanish, the keys that operate them can change based on the alignment of the spheres, the whim of the lady, or the passage of time. A portal that required a silver spoon yesterday might require a gold ring today. A portal that opened to a whistle in the morning might require a clap in the evening. This fluidity keeps the planar trade guilds in business. They employ key masters and portal loggers, whose entire existence is dedicated to testing and verifying keys. They publish daily or weekly broadsheets listing the current requirements for the major trade gates. To the market of Breel Fire Plane, current key is a piece of obsidian. Warning, shift, expected in 2 days to a piece of charcoal. If you are using old data, you are stranded. There is also the matter of the master key. Does such a thing exist? A skeleton key for the multiverse. Legends speak of the skeleton key of Manon and Mac Lur, or the chime of opening tuned to the frequency of the spire. But in truth, the only entity with a master key is the Lady of Pain. Her shadow is the key that closes all doors. Her gaze is the key that opens the mazes. For you, the traveler, you must be a scavenger. You must be a collector of oddities. You should always carry the basics: a small knife for blood keys, a flask of water for elemental keys, a piece of iron for the lower planes, a piece of silver for the upper planes, a musical instrument, even a whistle for the chaotic planes, a flower for the Feywild or Arborea. But beyond the object, you must understand the philosophy. You must learn to think like the multiverse. If you find a portal in a burning building, do not look for a key made of ice. Look for a key made of ash. The portal is likely leading to a place of fire. It wants to be fed something that understands fire. If you find a portal in a graveyard, do not look for a symbol of life. Look for a bone. Look for a name carved in stone. The universe is a poet, but it is a very literal poet. It likes rhymes. It likes echoes. The key is the echo of the destination. There is a specific danger regarding keys that we must address: the consumable key. Most keys are merely focus objects. You hold the silver spoon you walk through. You still have the spoon. You can use it to come back. But some portals are hungry. They devour the key. If you possess a one-way key, you must be very, very careful. Suppose the key to a portal is a specific rare flower, the black lotus. You have one. You walk through the portal to the Astral Plane. The flower crumbles to dust in your hand as you cross the threshold. The energy of the key was spent to bridge the gap. Now you are in the Astral Plane. How do you get back? You need another black lotus. But do black lotuses grow in the Astral Plane? No, they grow on the Prime. You have locked yourself out. This is known as a dead-end drift. Many explorers have starved to death in rich, vibrant worlds simply because they used their return ticket to get there. Always, always ensure you have a spare key, or that you know the key for a different portal that can bring you home via a detour. Finally, we must speak of the living key. In rare, dark instances, the key is a person or a specific lineage. Some ancient portals, sealed by blood magic, will only open for a descendant of the Creator. You might find a gateway in the ruins of an Imaskari tower that refuses to budge for all the gold and magic in the world. But bring a commoner who happens to have a drop of Imaskari blood in their veins, and the door swings wide. This leads to the grim trade of key kidnapping. Factions in Sigil have been known to abduct people not for ransom, but because their genetic heritage makes them a walking skeleton key for a specific, valuable portal. So you understand now. The key is not a tool. The key is a relationship between you, the gate, and the destination. You must court the door. You must bribe the door. You must speak the language of the door. And speaking of language, How do you know? If you walk past a brick wall, how do you know it is a portal? If you find a portal, how do you know it requires a blue feather and not a red one? There is no sign hanging on the wall. The universe does not provide an instruction manual. Or does it? If you look closely, very, very closely at the frame of a portal, you will see the scratches. You will see the graffiti. You will see the subtle, coded messages left by those who came before. You will see the Portal Cant. It is the secret language of the planes, scratched into the mortar and painted in invisible ink. It is the hobo code of the multiverse, and if you cannot read it, you are walking blind. Lean in closer to the fire. I will teach you how to read the writing on the wall. Lean closer to the light. The shadows in the corners of the room are deep, and while they are likely harmless, we have spent enough time discussing the things that creep in the dark to be wary. You have the theory. You have the tuning fork in your pocket, or perhaps the rose petal or the rusty nail. You know that the archway in front of you might be a door to another world. But might is a dangerous word. In the planes, might gets you killed. Might steps you into a sphere of annihilation instead of a portal to the beastlands. You need certainty. Or, as close to certainty as a mortal can achieve in a multiverse built on chaos. You need to learn to read. I do not mean the common tongue or draconic, or even the supernal script of angels. I am speaking of Portal Cant. Just as thieves have their signs, a scratched triangle on a doorpost to indicate a wealthy target, a circle to indicate a safe house, the planewalkers of the multiverse have developed a visual language to map the infinite. This language is scratched into the mortar of Sigil, carved into the bark of trees in the arborea, and etched with acid into the metal walls of Acheron. It is the metadata of the cosmos. To the uninitiated, a portal frame looks like dirty stone. To the seasoned, blood, a veteran of the plains, that stone is a billboard. It tells you where the portal goes, what the key is when it opens, and whether it will kill you. Let us begin with the sensory tell. Before you even look for scratches, you must learn to listen with your senses. A portal is a wound in reality. Even when it is closed, even when the door is shut, the wound is there. It bleeds energy. If you stand before a dormant portal frame, close your eyes. Extend your hand, palm outward, but do not touch the space within the frame. Just hover. Thermal bleed. A portal to the elemental plane of fire will always radiate a dry, prickling heat, even if it is snowing in the city. A portal to Cania, the frozen layer of hell, will feel like an open window in winter. A draft that sucks the warmth from your skin. Auditory leak. The universe hums. A portal to Mechanus emits a rhythmic, ticking vibration like a heartbeat of metal. A portal to Pandemonium whispers. If you put your ear near the frame, you will hear a faint, maddening whistling sound, like wind through a cracked tooth. Olfactory hints. This is often the first sign. A portal to the abyss smells of ozone and rotting meat. A portal to arborea smells of vintage wine and blooming lilacs. A portal to the Shadowfell smells of wet dust and stagnant water. If the frame feels inert, If it has no temperature, no sound, no smell, be wary. It might be a broken portal, or it might be a portal to the negative energy plane, which is defined by the absence of everything. Now, open your eyes. Look at the frame itself. We are looking for the glyphs. In Sigil, these are often hidden. The Lady of Pain does not explicitly forbid mapping portals, but the Dabbas, her floating, silent caretakers, will scrub away graffiti they find too obtrusive. Therefore, Portal Cant is often small. It is scratched near the ground, hidden under the lip of a lintel, or disguised as decorative carving. Here is a primer on the basic symbology found across the Great Wheel. Memorize these shapes. 1. The directional indicators the spiral. This is the most common mark. A clockwise spiral indicates a two-way portal. You can go through and you can come back. These are the safest routes. A counterclockwise spiral indicates a one-way portal. Once you step through, the door locks behind you. You are stranded until you find another way home. A spiral with a line through it. Do not enter. This indicates a malfunctioning or drifting portal. It might deposit you in the astral void or inside a mountain. The arrow. An arrow pointing up typically signifies the upper planes, Mount Celestia, Elysium, etc. An arrow pointing down signifies the lower planes, the abyss, the nine hells. An arrow pointing sideways usually implies the transitive planes, astral, ethereal, or the inner planes, elemental. 2. The key ciphers this is where the cant becomes an art form. A planewalker cannot simply write. The key is a blue feather on the wall. That takes too much time to carve, and it is too easy for an enemy to read. Instead, they use pictograms and associations. The open eye, this signifies a cognitive key. It means you must look with your mind. You must concentrate or visualize. If the eye is weeping, you must feel sorrow. If the eye is wide and staring, you must feel fear. The cupped hand, this signifies a physical key. You must hold something. If there is a small diamond shape inside the hand, the key is a gem or coin. If there is a wavy line inside the hand, the key is liquid, blood, water, potion. If there is a leaf shape, the key is organic. The flexed arm, this signifies a somatic key. You must perform an action. A stick figure bending, you must bow or kneel. A mouth, you must speak a word or sing a note. 3. The hazard marks. These are the warnings left by those who barely survived. If you see these, pay attention. The jagged tooth, this looks like a saw blade. It means trap. The portal might deposit you in midair or into a pool of acid. The split circle, this indicates random destination. The portal shifts. It is essentially a roulette wheel. The skull, often used for the lower planes, but specifically means hostile arrival. It means there are guards, monsters, or environmental hazards waiting immediately on the other side. You should enter with weapons drawn and shields up, reading the scrubber marks in Sigil. You must also learn to read the Dabbas. The lady's servants communicate in rebuses, puzzles where pictures represent words. Sometimes you will see a string of glowing illusions floating above an archway. If you see a floating image of a knight's helmet, a sea wave, and a noose, you must sound it out. Night see noose, not see us. Invisibility, or perhaps night sounds like night. Night see noose. The portal opens at night, leads to the sea, and is a trap. Deciphering Dabus puzzles is a headache, but it is the only official signage you will ever get. The faction tags, the factions of Sigil, are territorial. They mark their portals to claim ownership and to warn off rivals. The Harmonium, the Hardheads, they mark their portals with a stylized shield. These portals are usually heavily guarded and lead to Arcadia or Mount Celestia. They are orderly, well-maintained, and require paperwork to use. The Doomguard. They mark portals with a stylized skull or a breaking weapon. Their portals lead to the planes of entropy and destruction, the negative energy plane, the quasi-elemental plane of ash. The Zeocytics. Their marks are graffiti in the truest sense, wild, colorful, nonsensical scribbles. If you see a portal covered in chaotic paint, it likely leads to Limbo or Usgard. The key is probably something ridiculous, like sneezing while hopping on one foot. The Athar, the Defiers, they mark portals leading to the Astral Plane, where the dead gods lie, with a shattered holy symbol. The art of spiking a portal sometimes. You will find a portal frame that has a physical object jammed into it, an iron spike driven into the stone, or a wedge of wood hammered into the crack. This is a portal spike. Planewalkers use these to jam a portal open or closed. By disrupting the physical integrity of the frame, you can sometimes prevent the portal from activating, locking it, or force it to remain active even without the key wedging it. If you see a spike, be careful. Removing it might cause the portal to collapse, or it might trigger an immediate opening that sucks you in. A spiked portal is a tampered mechanism. Magical detection. The analyze portal spell for the wizard or the scholar. There is a more refined method than looking for scratches in the dirt. There is the spell Analyze Portal. It is a divination of specific utility. When cast, the mage looks at the frame. The weave resolves into a lattice of data. Round 1 of concentration. You detect if a portal is present. The area glows in your magical sight. Round 2. You learn the number of portals. Sometimes multiple portals share the same frame, activating with different keys. Round 3. You learn the destination, or at least the plane it leads to, the key required, and any special properties, one-way, random, variable. However, Analyze Portal has a flaw. It can be fooled. Illusionists often cast Nistal's magic aura on a portal to mask its true nature. They might make a portal to the abyss look like a portal to Elysium to trick unwary travelers. They might mask the key requirement, leading you to believe it is an open arch when it is actually locked. Therefore, the wise traveler trusts the cant over the spell. A spell can be faked by one powerful wizard, but a cant mark is usually the result of generations of travelers confirming the truth. If the spell says safe, but the cant says trap, trust the Cant. The portal log, you should start keeping one. Buy a leather-bound journal. When you find a portal, sketch the frame. Rub charcoal over the markings to copy them. Note the time of day, the weather, and the smell. Over time, this log becomes your most valuable possession. You will start to see patterns. You will realize that portals to the Beastlands often appear near oak trees that have been struck by lightning. You will notice that portals to the Hells are often found in architecture that uses obsidian or black iron. False positives and mimics, we must address the predator that hunts the portal seeker. There is a creature known as the portal mimic. You know the standard mimic. It looks like a chest or a door to trick you into touching it. The portal mimic is larger. It forms its body into the shape of a stone archway. It creates a shimmering membrane in its center that looks exactly like an active portal surface. It waits in dungeons or ruins, radiating a faint magical aura. The weary adventurer sees it, thinks escape, and runs into it. They do not teleport. They run into the adhesive, acidic maw of the predator. How do you tell the difference? Throw a stone. If you throw a stone into a real portal, it disappears instantly. It transitions. If you throw a stone into a portal mimic, it bounces off or it sticks. Always throw a stone first. This is the first rule of the portal safety protocol. The ethics of the Cant, finally. There is a code of honor among those who walk the plains. If you find a new portal, or if you discover that an old key has changed, you are obligated to update the Cant. You take out your knife. You scratch the new symbol. You cross out the old one. If you find a portal that is deadly, one that leads to the vacuum of space or a lava pit, you mark it with the skull. To leave a death trap unmarked is to be responsible for the death of the next Burke who comes along. And in the plains, karma is not a subtle force. The energies you put out tend to circle back to you. If you save a life by marking a danger, the multiverse might just provide you with a key when you are the one running for your life. So, look at the wall. Look at the base of that statue. Do you see it? That faint scratch looks like a spiral with a line through it. Move away. That door is broken. See the one over there, the one with the drawing of the sun and a coin. That is our way out. But it requires gold and it requires daylight. Check your purse. Check the sky. We are ready to move. But where are we going? We have the method. We have the key. We have the map. Now we must look at the specific paths. We must look at the great rivers and the great tree. We are going to climb Yggdrasil. The fire has burned down to embers, casting a deep, ruddy glow across the room. It is a quieter light, one that invites contemplation of things that are older than cities, older than wizards, and older than the spoken word. We have spoken of the artificial. We have spoken of the arcane spells that tear the sky, and the urban portals of Sigil that click open like clockwork mechanisms. These are the inventions of sentient minds trying to bridge the gaps between worlds. But the multiverse has its own anatomy. It has veins. It has roots. It has a nervous system that existed long before the first brick of Sigil was laid. If you do not have a spell, and if you do not have a key, and if you cannot find a portal frame, you can still travel. But you must become a part of the cosmic geography. You must sail the rivers that flow between realities, or climb the tree that holds the sky. We call these the divine pathways, though they belong to no single god. They are the infrastructure of belief. Let us begin with the structure that binds the upper planes, Yggdrasil, the world ash. Imagine a tree. Now, discard that image, for it is too small. Imagine a structure of living wood so vast that a single leaf is the size of a township. Imagine a trunk that rises from the gray wastes of Hades and stretches up through the infinite layers of Asgard, branching out to touch the beastlands, Arborea, and even the prime material. Yggdrasil is the great connector of the chaotic good and neutral alignments. It is not merely a plant, it is a realm unto itself. Traveling via Yggdrasil is not a matter of stepping through a door. It is a climb. It is a hike. To find the world ash, you must usually find a root or a branch tip in the plane where you currently reside. In the Nordic realms of the prime material, or in the first layer of Asgard, the tree is visible on the horizon, a vertical wall of bark that disappears into the clouds. To travel from Asgard to the Beastlands, you do not teleport. You walk along a branch. The journey is physical and exhausting. The branch roads are wide enough to march an army across, covered in bark that forms hills and valleys. Rivers of sap flow down these roads, glowing with a pale amber light. The wind here is the breath of the multiverse, a gale that smells of pine and starlight. But the geography is non-Euclidean. As you walk along a branch, intending to go to Ulfheim, the horizon shifts. You might walk for 3 days, and suddenly the light changes. The air grows warmer. The leaves above you shift from pine needles to broad, tropical fronds. You have not passed a border. You have simply walked from one plane into another along the continuous surface of the wood. There are hazards unique to this pathway. First, gravity is subjective. On the trunk, down is toward the roots in Hades, but on the branches, down is toward the wood of the branch itself. If you fall off a branch, you do not necessarily fall to the ground. You fall into the astral void that surrounds the tree. You drift away, a speck of dust lost in the silver sea, until you starve or are eaten by an astral dreadnought. Second, the wildlife. The tree is inhabited. You must beware the ratatosk. These are squirrel-like celestials, or fae, depending on the scholar, standing roughly human-sized, who serve as the messengers and guardians of the tree. They are chaotic, chatty, and fiercely territorial. They know every knot and hollow of the ash. If you befriend a ratatosk, usually with gifts of rare nuts or shiny trinkets, they can guide you through the shortcuts, hollows inside the trunk that bypass thousands of miles of climbing. If you anger them, they can mislead you, guiding you down a branch that leads straight to the roots in Niflheim, the dark realm of hell in the gray waste. And deeper down, gnawing at the roots, is Nidhogg, while the great dragon itself rarely bothers individual travelers. Its children, the linorms and lesser drakes, infest the lower, rotting sections of the tree. Traveling Yggdrasil requires endurance. It is the path for the ranger, the barbarian, the druid. It is a journey of weeks or months, but it is reliable. The tree does not close. It does not require a key. It simply requires that you do not let go. Now let us descend from the heights and look to the waters. There are two great rivers that flow through the outer plains. They are the arteries of the great wheel. The first is the river Oceanus. This is the waterway of the upper plains. It connects Elysium, the Beastlands, and Arborea. Its headwaters are unknown, perhaps springing from the positive energy plane itself, and its mouth empties into the infinite depths of the Thalasia layer of Elysium. The Oceanus is a river of sweet water. It is crystal clear, smelling of ozone and blooming lotuses. It is calm, broad, and serene. To travel the Oceanus, you need a boat. This sounds simple, but a boat on the plains is not just a vessel. It is a sanctuary. The water of the Oceanus is heavily charged with positive energy. It is tranquil. If you touch it, if you drink it, you feel a sense of profound peace. This is the trap. If you spend too much time on the Oceanus or drink too much of its water, you become calmed. The urgency of your quest fades. You forget why you were traveling. You forget your name. You simply want to drift. You become a lotus eater, a soul lost to contentment. Many ships float on the Oceanus, crewed by smiling, vacant sailors who have been drifting for centuries, perfectly happy, going nowhere. To use the river effectively, you must stay dry. You must resist the siren call of the peace it offers. The river flows through the plains seamlessly. You might be sailing past the emerald forests of the Beastlands, watching the celestial lions drink from the banks. As the river bends, the trees change to the giant redwoods of Arborea. The transition is gentle. The river unites the concepts of good. But for every light, there is a shadow, and for the sweet waters of Oceanus, there is the foul, oily current of the lower plains. We must speak of the river Styx, the river of blood, the river of hate, the river of forgetfulness. The Styx is the most dangerous highway in existence. It winds through the lower plains, connecting Acheron, the nine hells Badr, Gehenna, Hades, Carcery, the Abyss, and Pandemonium. It serves as the primary shipping lane for the Blood War, the eternal conflict between demons and devils. The water of the Styx is not water. It is a soup of bile, blood, oil, and the dissolved memories of the damned. It is deep red or black, bubbling with a foul gas that burns the lungs. The primary danger of the Styx is amnesia. If you touch the water, even a drop, you must fight to hold onto your mind. A splash can wipe away the last 24 hours of your memory. Submersion leads to total erasure. You emerge as a blank slate, a tabula rasa. In the lower plains, a being without memory is a slave. You will be press-ganged into a devil's legion or eaten by a demon before you can ask, "Who am I?" And yet, despite this horror, the Styx is the busiest trade route in the multiverse. Why? Because it goes everywhere evil resides. If you need to get from the iron city of Dis, Hell, to the gaping maw abyss to sell weapons, you take the river. But you do not swim, and you do not sail your own boat, for the currents of the Styx are treacherous and defy physics. The river flows upstream and downstream simultaneously. It flows in loops. It dives underground and reemerges in a different layer of reality. To navigate the Styx, you need a Marinoloth. These are the boatmen. They are Yugoloths, neutral evil fiends who serve as the mercenaries of the plains. They appear as skeletal figures robed in gray, poling skiffs made of bone or black iron. The Marinoloth is the ultimate portal key for the Styx. They know the currents. They can pilot a ship through the chaotic eddies that would crush a mortal vessel. They can navigate the portal arches that span the river, taking you from Badr to Gehenna in hours rather than days. But they require payment. The rule of the boatman is absolute. Pay the toll. The toll varies. Sometimes it is gold, pure, unadulterated gold. Sometimes it is a magical item. Sometimes it is a specific soul gem. And sometimes, if they sense desperation, they will ask for a piece of you. A memory, a finger, a breath. If you pay the Marinoloth, you are safe. They will defend their passengers with terrifying skill. A Marinoloth will fight off a pit fiend to protect a paying customer, not out of loyalty, but out of professional pride. The contract is sacred to them. But if you try to cheat them, if you try to hijack their boat, the Marinoloth simply steps off the boat. And suddenly, you are alone, drifting in a bone skiff on a river of liquid hate, heading toward a waterfall that drops into the frozen layer of Cania. There is a psychological weight to traveling the Styx. The scenery is horrific. You sail past the iron cubes of Acheron, where armies of orcs and goblins clash eternally. You drift through the gray despair of Hades, where the larvae, soul worms, writhe on the banks. You navigate the jagged canyons of the abyss, watching demons tear each other apart on the cliffs. The air above the river is heavy with the psychic static of the lower planes. It presses on your mind. It whispers your failures to you. It tempts you to give up, to jump in the water, to wash away the pain of being you. To travel the divine pathways is to expose yourself to the raw alignment of the multiverse. On Yggdrasil, you feel the chaotic joy of growth and the struggle of the climb. On Oceanus, you feel the suffocating blanket of peace. On the Styx, you feel the grinding, industrial misery of evil. These are not shortcuts. These are immersions. But what if you do not wish to climb a tree or sail a river? What if you wish to walk? What if you are looking for a structure that connects the divine realms not by geography, but by architecture? What if you are looking for the back door of the gods? There is a legend of a staircase that appears in the shadows of every city of the gods. A staircase that spirals through the void, connecting the basements of hell to the attics of heaven. We must leave the water now. We must find the first step. gather your gear. We are going to find the infinite staircase. Come, rest your legs for a moment, though do not get too comfortable. We have done a great deal of swimming and climbing in our mind's eye, and the fatigue you feel is the shadow of the journey. The fire is low, the room is dim. It is the perfect atmosphere for what comes next. We have spoken of the noisy public highways, the rivers that ferry souls and merchandise, and the world ash that stands as a pillar for the brave. But there are travelers who prefer the quiet. There are those who look for the secret passages, the service elevators of reality. If you are a bard, a poet, or a rogue who prefers the shadow to the spotlight, you do not take the river, you find the stairs. We are going to climb the infinite staircase. Imagine you are in a tavern in Waterdeep, or perhaps a temple in the elven capital of Evermeet. You are exploring the cellar, looking for a cask of wine, or perhaps chasing a stray cat. You find a door in the back that you do not remember seeing before. It is old, the wood dark and polished by countless hands. It does not look like a cellar door. It looks grander. You open it. You do not find a broom closet. You find a landing. A platform of marble, or perhaps iron, or perhaps floating glass. And stretching up and down, spiraling into a misty, moonlit void, is a staircase. This is the infinite staircase. It is the architectural spine that connects the back doors of the multiverse. It connects the places of creativity and strong emotion. It is drawn to the vibrant. You will rarely find an entrance to the staircase in a dull, bureaucratic office in Mechanus, but you will find one in the backstage dressing room of a theater in Arborea, or in the private workshop of a smith in the city of Brass. The appearance of the staircase is a chaotic tapestry of styles. As you climb, the stairs change. One moment you are walking on steps of white alabaster, railed with gold, the influence of Selûne's palace. 100 steps later, the material shifts to rough-hewn obsidian, slick with moisture, reflecting the gloom of the Shadowfell. Then it shifts again to industrial iron grates. The staircase is not linear. It does not simply go up to good and down to evil. It twists. It branches. You will come to landings with 5 different stairways leading off in impossible directions, some sideways, some upside down. Gravity here is local. You stick to the steps. You can look up and see another traveler walking on the underside of a staircase above you. The atmosphere here is one of profound, dreamlike melancholy. It is always quiet, save for the echo of footsteps and the distant sound of weeping or singing. The light is a pale, silvery blue, sourced from nowhere and everywhere. But you are not alone here. You must meet the loreDND. They are the guardians of the staircase. They are celestial beings, but they possess a strange, alien beauty. From the waist up, they appear as strikingly perfect humanoids, elves, or humans of immense grace. From the waist down, they are massive, multicolored serpents. Their scales shimmer like oil on water. They wear masks, porcelain, wood, or metal, that display frozen expressions of tragedy or joy. The loreDND are not guards in the traditional sense. They do not ask for a passport. They ask for art. They are creatures of song and story. To pass a Liland who is blocking the way, you must entertain them. You must tell a tale they have never heard. You must sing a song that moves them to tears. If you are a boring traveler, a merchant with nothing but a ledger, they may simply refuse to let you pass, or worse, they may guide you to a landing that leads to a place of absolute silence, just to punish your lack of soul. Navigating the staircase is an exercise in intuition. There are no signs. You must feel your way. If you wish to go to the Beastlands, you must climb toward the smell of pine and the sound of roaring. If you wish to go to Limbo, you must follow the stairs that seem to be vibrating or changing color randomly. The infinite staircase is the route for the individual. Armies cannot march here. The stairs are too narrow, the geometry too confusing. It is the path of the lonely wanderer. But perhaps you do not want the stairs. Perhaps you want the solid ground. Perhaps you want to walk from hell to heaven without ever leaving the surface of a planet. For that, you must go to the Outlands. We briefly touched upon this when discussing Sigil, for Sigil floats above it. But the Outlands, the concordant domain, is a plane unto itself, and it is a masterpiece of planar geography. Imagine a wheel. Sigil is the hub, the spire is the axle, the Outlands is the spokes and the rim. The Outlands is the plane of neutrality. It is the buffer zone between all other beliefs, and because of this, it touches everything. Arranged in a perfect circle around the edge of the Outlands are the gate towns. There are 16 of them. Each town is built around a permanent portal to one of the outer planes, and over millennia, these towns have absorbed the flavor, the culture, and the architecture of the plane they border. This offers a unique method of travel, the Great Road. You can physically walk from the gate town of Excelsior, which leads to Mount Celestia, to the gate town of Tradegate, which leads to Bitopia. You do not need magic. You just need good boots. You are walking through the hinterlands of neutrality, watching the landscape slowly shift from the gold-tinted fields near Excelsior to the industrious, orderly forests near Tradegate. Let us examine a few of these towns, for they are the waiting rooms of the afterlife. Ribcage, the gate to Bodr. This town sits in a jagged valley. To enter the 9 hells, you must pass through here. The town is built inside the ribcage of a colossal, dead entity, a titan or a god that died eons ago. The buildings are made of black stone and bone. The atmosphere is oppressive. The guards are strict, the taxes are high, and the laws are draconian. It feels like hell, but it isn't hell. Not yet. The portal to Bodr is a massive citadel in the center of town. To enter, you must prove you are lawful, or at least that you can follow rules. Plaguemort, the gate to the abyss. This is the opposite. It is a festering sore of a town. The streets are mud and filth. The buildings are crumbling shacks. The ruler is whoever is strongest today. They will likely be dead tomorrow. The portal to the abyss is the gaping maw, a pit in the center of town that sometimes expands to swallow a neighborhood. If you walk here, you keep your hand on your sword. Automata, the gate to Mechanus. Here, everything ticks. The streets are perfect grids. The citizens move in synchronization. You eat at 12 o'clock. You work at 12:30. If you are late, you are arrested. The portal to Mechanus is a giant gear in the town square that rotates once every precise rotation of the plane. Sylvania, the gate to Arborea. A town that is more of a festival than a settlement. The buildings are grown from living trees. The air is filled with revelry, wine, and music. The portal is a glade of eternal twilight. Traveling through the gate towns is the safest way to acclimate to a plane. If you teleport directly to the abyss, the shock of the chaos might drive you mad. But if you spend a week in Plaguemort, you harden yourself. You get used to the misery. You acclimate. But there is a danger here, a phenomenon known as town sliding. The Outlands is a balanced scale. The gate towns sit on the edge. If a town becomes too aligned with its destination plane, if Ribcage becomes too lawful and too evil, the Outlands spits it out. The entire town vanishes from the Outlands and physically slides into the neighboring plane. Ribcage might suddenly wake up to find it is no longer in the neutral lands. It is now the first layer of hell. The sky turns red, the devils march in, and the town is consumed. When this happens, a new town eventually grows in its place on the Outlands to fill the void. But the original residents are now planers. Travelers must be wary of this. You do not want to be sleeping in an inn in the town of Bedlam, gate to Pandemonium. On the night the wind blows too hard, and the town slides into the madness tunnels. Finally, we must speak of the center, the spire. If you turn your back on the gate towns and walk inward toward the spire, you are walking toward true neutrality. This is the ultimate anti-magic defense of the multiverse. As you walk spireward, magic begins to fail. At the outer rim near the gate towns, everything works normally. 500 miles in, 9th level spells fail. The mightiest wizards lose their apex powers. Further in, 6th level spells fail. Then 4th. Then 1st. At the base of the spire, no magic works. None. A +5 Holy Avenger sword becomes a sharp piece of steel. A potion of healing is just flavored water. A golem collapses, lifeless. Even the avatars of gods lose their divinity here. They become mortal physical shells. This makes the base of the spire the only place in the multiverse where a mortal can kill a god with a rock, though the gods know this, and they generally stay away. The spire is a beacon for those who wish to hide from magical scrying. If you are being hunted by a lick, flee to the spire. His scrying balls will go dark. His teleportation spells will fizzle. He will have to come for you on foot without his magic and face you blade to blade. This is the geography of the middle. The infinite staircase for the stealthy, the gate towns for the diplomatic, and the spire for the desperate. But what of the ancient ways? What of the roads built by civilizations that treated the plains not as mysteries, but as colonies? We have looked at the natural and the divine. Now, we must look at the archaeological. We must dig into the past to find the ancient gateways. The fire is now a bed of glowing coals, pulsing with a rhythmic heat that matches the beat of a sleeping heart. The shadows in the room have lengthened, stretching out like the fingers of ghosts. It is the perfect light for our next chapter. We have spoken of the natural bleeds, the divine highways, and the chaotic urban sprawl of Sigil. These are the portals of the present, the doors that are open now. But the multiverse has a history. It has deep strata of time, layer upon layer of fallen empires, forgotten struggles, and lost technologies. If you are a scholar, an archaeologist, or a treasure hunter, you are not looking for the shimmering curtain of a Fey crossing. You are looking for the machines of the ancients. You are looking for the ancient gateways. You must understand that in the current age, the age of humanity, the age of lost omens, depending on your calendar, magic is a wild, somewhat diminished thing. We struggle to cast spells of the ninth circle. We treat a plane shift as a miracle. But there were times, thousands of years ago, when magic was not a prayer. It was a science. It was an industry. There were civilizations that treated the fabric of the multiverse not as a mystery to be respected, but as a resource to be strip-mined. They built portals the way we build bridges, massive, permanent, and enduring. But because their creators are dead, these portals are now orphans. They are malfunctioning, feral, and incredibly dangerous. Let us dig into the sands first. Let us speak of the Imaskari. Thousands of years ago, in the region now known as the Roran Desert on Toril, the Imaskari Empire, the empire of the artificers, reigned supreme. These were not wizards in pointy hats. These were metaphysical engineers. They wore masks of gold and bronze to hide their humanity. They did not worship gods, they sought to rival them. The Imaskari needed labor, and so they built the twin gates. These were not simple doorframes. These were colossal structures, hundreds of feet high, buzzing with arcane electricity that tasted of copper and tyranny. The Imaskari tuned these gates to other crystal spheres, specifically to a world where humans were plentiful and gods were distant. Some scholars whisper this was Earth, though the records are fragmented. They opened the gates and dragged entire populations through. Tens of thousands of slaves pulled across the void to build the Imaskari cities. Today, the twin gates are gone, shattered in the fall of the empire, but the Imaskari portal network remains buried beneath the shifting dunes of Roran and the purple dust plains. How do you identify an Imaskari portal? You look for the purple lightning. Imaskari magic does not shimmer, it crackles. It is violet, harsh, and loud. If you find a ruin in the desert, a tower of smooth, glass-like stone that has been fused by immense heat, search the basement. You might find a metal ring etched with geometric lines that hurt the eyes to follow. Unlike modern portals, Imaskari gates do not use keys in the poetic sense. They use keystones. These are physical control rods, usually cylinders of strange, cold metal that slot into a mechanism. If you activate an Imaskari portal, be prepared for violence. The artificers built retrievers and tomb tappers to guard their transit points. A dormant portal might wake up a construct that has been sleeping for 4,000 years, and its first directive will be to secure the perimeter. Furthermore, these portals were often designed to block divine magic. The Imaskari feared the gods of their slaves. Passing through an Imaskari gate might strip you of your clerical blessings, or leave your paladin abilities suppressed for days. It is a godless transit. Now, let us look to the sky. Let us speak of Netheril. Before the desert swallowed the Imaskari, the Netherese ruled the north. This was the age of high magic. This was the era of Karsus, the man who tried to become a god. The Netherese did not live on the ground. They considered the earth to be for the common rabble. They lived in flying enclaves, massive cities sheared off the top of mountains, inverted, and floated through the air using the mythalar. The mythalar was a crystal sphere, perhaps 50 feet in diameter, that functioned as a magical nuclear reactor. It provided the infinite mana required to keep a mountain flying, and it powered the Netherese transporters. In a Netherese city, you did not walk from the University of the Arcane to the market. You stepped onto a transport disk. These were short-range teleporters, a network of thousands of instant transit paths, but they also built the heavy gates. These connected the enclaves to the distant corners of the multiverse, specifically to places of resource extraction. They had gates to the plane of earth for mining, gates to the plane of fire for energy research. A Netherese portal is unmistakable. It is elegant, crystalline, and opulent. It is usually framed in arcanium or mithril. It hums with a pure, high-pitched tone. The danger of Netherese portals lies in the magic dead zones. When the Empire fell, when Karsus broke the weave, the enclaves fell from the sky. The magic that sustained them shattered. Today, the ruins of Netheril are scattered across the Anarok Desert. If you find a Netherese portal in a ruin, it is likely damaged. The weave around it is scarred. Wild magic surge. Stepping through might turn you blue, or summon a unicorn, or cast fireball on yourself. Time shearing. The portal might work, but it might deposit you in the destination 3 weeks before you entered, or 100 years in the future. Incomplete transit, the most horrific malfunction. The portal might transport your body, but leave your equipment behind. Or, God forbid, it might transport your organic matter, but leave your skeleton. The Netherese were arrogant. They did not build safety rails. They assumed the user was a wizard of high intellect. If you are not, the machine might simply consume you. Finally, we must turn to the forests. We must speak of the elven mythals. While the humans built with stone and hubris, the Telquessir, the people, built with song and light. The ancient elven kingdoms, Cormenther, Elefarn, Myth Draenor, were protected by mythals. A mythal is a high magic field, a dome of permanent, living enchantment that covers a city. It prevents fire from burning the trees. It allows elves to fly, and it bars entrance to evil dragons. and the mythal is the portal. You do not need a frame in a mythal. The entire city is a gateway, if you know the song. Ancient elven portals are invisible. They are seamlessly integrated into nature. You might walk between two ancient oak trees in the high forest. To a human, it is just a path. To an elf carrying a Kaira, a lore gem, those trees are the gate to Evermeet. The elven gates are selective. This is their primary defense. An Imaskari gate is a machine. Anyone can use it if they have the lever. A Netherese gate is a tool. Anyone can use it if they have the code. But an elven gate has an opinion. It reads your soul. If you are an orc, or a drow, or a human with a heart full of greed, the portal will not open. Or it will divert you. You might step through the archway expecting to find the elven court, and instead find yourself in a briar patch 3 miles away, confused and scratched. However, there is a darker side to elven travel, the Ewerwood. In the ancient forests of the Ewer, there lies a network of portals known as the Starwater Circle. These are megalithic stone circles, older than the elves, adopted by them. They connect to the Seldarine, the homes of the elven gods in Arvindor. But the Ewerwood is haunted. The ancient star elves who built these networks retreated into a pocket dimension, the Sildiur, to escape the wars of the Prime. The portals are still there, half buried in moss. They are erratic. They are drift gates. Sometimes, on nights when the constellations are wrong, these portals open to the far realm. The elves were great scholars of the stars, but they looked too deep. Some of their gates do not lead to the heavens. They lead to the places between the stars. If you find an elven gate that hums with a discordant, atonal song, or if the moss growing on it is purple and writhing, run, do not sing to it, do not touch it. That is a door to madness. There is one final category of ancient gateway, perhaps the most mysterious of all, the master circles of the Druids. These are the moon gates, found in the Moonshee Isles and other Celtic-inspired regions. These are simple standing stones, dolmens, trilithons. They rely on the moon. A moon gate is dormant during the day, but when the full moon rises, the space between the stones fills with mist. These are the safest of the ancient gates, for they are maintained by the Earth Mother herself. They lead to the Feywild, or to other moonwells across the world. They are the fast travel network of the Druidic circles. A druid can step into a moonwell in the Sword Coast and emerge from a pool in the Moonshees instantly. But they require balance. If you carry metal that has been used to murder, the moonwell might boil when you step in. If you are an aberration, the stones might crush you. Excavating the truth when you deal with ancient portals, you are not just a traveler, you are a grave robber. You are waking up sleeping dogs. If you find a portal in a dungeon that looks like a giant demon face with a mouth full of darkness, the classic green devil face of the Tomb of Horrors, remember, the ancients had a twisted sense of humor. Some portals were built as execution devices. Some were built as garbage disposals, leading to the plane of ooze. Some were built as traps for gods. Use the identify spell. Use the legend lore spell. Brush the dust off the glyphs. If the glyphs are sharp, angular, and glowing violet, Imaskari, danger, constructs, and slavery. If the glyphs are elegant, flowing, and silver, Netherese, danger, wild magic, and explosion. If the glyphs are natural, looking like vines or leaves, elven, danger, rejection, and bewitchment. You are standing on the shoulders of giants. But remember, giants often stepped on the little people. We have explored the past. We have explored the methods. Now, we must face the reality of the journey itself. It is not just about opening the door. It is about what happens to your mind and body when you step into the void. It is about the wind that blows between the worlds. The psychic wind is rising. Can you hear it? The fire in the grate has settled into a low, rhythmic pulse, a deep orange glow that barely illuminates the room. It is a comforting sight, is it not? It is contained. It is domestic. It is safe. You must hold onto that image. You must memorize the feeling of the floor beneath your boots and the roof above your head. Because where we are going now, there is no floor. There is no roof. There is only the endless, silvery expanse of the in-between. We have discussed how to find the door. We have discussed how to pick the lock. We have discussed the ancient machines that tear the holes. But we have not yet spoken of the swim. When you step through a portal, you assume it is instantaneous. A blink. One moment you are in the tavern, the next you are in the city of brass. And often, for the traveler, it feels that way. But for the universe, there is a transit. There is a microsecond, or sometimes an eternity, where you are nowhere. You are in the void, and sometimes the portal does not deposit you gently on the other side. Sometimes it drops you in the middle. We must speak of the hazards of the void. Specifically, we must address the dangers of the astral plane, for it is the connective tissue of the outer planes, even if you do not intend to travel there. A malfunctioning portal, a broken bag of holding, or a miscast plane shift can deposit you there. And despite its reputation as a place of thought and emptiness, the void is not empty. It has weather, it has predators, and it has diseases. Let us begin with the weather. In the silver void, there is no air to move, so there is no wind in the conventional sense. There is no pressure system to create storms, and yet the seasoned planewalker fears the gale above all else. They fear the psychic wind. The astral plane is the realm of the mind. It is where thoughts go when they leave the prime material. It is the graveyard of memories. Sometimes these thoughts congregate. They clump together like storm clouds. Fear, anger, despair, confusion, billions of psychic emanations coalesce into a metaphysical storm front. When the psychic wind hits you, it does not ruffle your hair. It ruffles your soul. The first sign is a darkening of the silver sky. The eternal gray-white luminescence begins to bruise. Colors ripple through the void, ugly purples, sick greens, violent reds. You hear it before you feel it. It sounds like 1,000 people whispering in a library, then 1,000 people screaming in a dungeon, then the roar of a breaking wave. If you are caught in the wind, the effects are bifurcated, mental and physical. Mentally, the wind attacks your intellect. You are bombarded with thoughts that are not your own. You might suddenly remember a murder you didn't commit. You might feel the heartbreak of a widow who lived 3,000 years ago. If your will is not iron, the wind can scour your mind clean. You might forget where you are going. You might forget your name. This is known as astral madness. Travelers have been found floating in the void, physically unharmed, but catatonic, their minds blown away like leaves. Physically, the wind moves you. And in a plane without landmarks, movement is dangerous. The wind disconnects you from your destination. You might have been heading for a color pool leading to Arborea, a mere 100 feet away. The wind hits. You are tumbled, spun, and thrown through the infinite. When the storm clears, the pool is gone. You are lost in the deep astral. And because the astral is infinite, you can drift forever and never see another solid object. For those using astral projection, the wind is a mortal threat to the silver cord. The wind can tangle the cord. It can stretch it. And while the cord is nearly indestructible, the wind can blow the projector so far off course that the cord snaps under the metaphysical strain. Or the sleeping body on the prime dies of old age before the soul can return. But the wind is an environmental hazard. It is impersonal. It does not hate you. The astral dreadnought hates you. If the astral plane is an ocean, this is the Leviathan. The dreadnought is the apex predator of the silver void. It is a creature of such terrifying magnitude that seeing one is often the last thing a traveler's mind processes. Imagine a serpentine body, covered in reddish chitinous armor, as thick as a castle wall. It is massive, easily the size of a galleon, often larger. It has no legs, only a muscular tail that propels it through the void with terrifying speed. Below its head, two massive, pincer-like claws can crush a storm giant in a single snap. But it is the face that haunts the nightmares of the planewalker. The dreadnought has a single, unblinking eye the size of a wagon wheel. This eye is not merely an organ of sight, it is a weapon. It projects a cone of anti-magic. This is why the dreadnought is the doom of wizards. You are flying through the astral, powered by your intellect, confident in your spells. You see the beast. You prepare a fireball, a disintegrate, a plane shift. The eye turns toward you. Your magic dies. Your flight stops if it was magical. Your defensive buffs vanish. Your summoned allies disappear. You are suddenly just a small, fleshy creature floating in space, helpless. And then the maw opens. The dreadnought does not chew, it swallows. And here is the true horror. The stomach of an astral dreadnought is not a digestive organ. It is a donjon. The stomach is a legendary, self-contained demiplane. If you are swallowed, you do not die of acid. You find yourself in a dark, stone cave. There is gravity. There is air. There are the remains of centuries of other victims, armor, weapons, bones. You are alive, but you are trapped. You cannot plane shift out. The walls are dimensionally sealed. You cannot cut your way out. The stomach lining is indestructible from the inside. You exist there until the dreadnought dies. And dreadnoughts are immortal. Some travelers have lived in the belly of a dreadnought for eons, forming small, desperate societies in the dark, waiting for a Githyanki raiding party to kill the beast and cut them free. Speaking of the Githyanki, they are the third great hazard. While the dreadnought is a beast, the Githyanki are pirates. They rule the astral. From their floating fortresses, built upon the petrified corpses of dead gods, they launch raids on travelers. They ride red dragons, beasts that have made a pact with the Githyanki queen. To see a squadron of red dragons soaring through the silver void is a majestic sight, right up until the moment they breathe fire on you. The Githyanki hunt for two things: magic and sport. If you are a physical traveler, one who has stepped through a portal, you are a prize. You can be enslaved. If you are an astral projector, you are a target. The Githyanki wield silver swords. These are great swords enchanted to disrupt psychic energy. If a silver sword strikes the silver cord of a projecting traveler, it has a chance to cut it. If your cord is cut, you die. Instantly, your soul is severed from your body, and you become a ghost of the astral, doomed to fade into the background radiation of the plane. But let us assume you avoid the wind, the beast, and the pirate. You reach your destination. You step through the color pool and land in the abyss, or the nine hells, or the Feywild. Now you must face portal sickness. The human body, and indeed the dwarven, elven, or halfling body, evolved on the prime material plane. It is designed for standard gravity, standard time, and a balance of elements. When you step onto an outer plane, you are subjecting your biology to a fundamental rewrite. This is often called planar dysphoria. If you step into a lawful plane like Mechanus, you might feel a stiffening of the joints. Your thoughts become rigid. You find it difficult to lie or to improvise. Your heart beats in a perfect metronomic rhythm that feels unnatural and painful. If you step into a chaotic plane like limbo, you might feel your form unraveling. Your skin feels loose. Your stomach churns as gravity shifts from down to left to subjective. Nausea is the most common symptom of portal travel, but the worst sickness comes from alignment dissonance. If a paladin of pure lawful good steps into the abyss, chaotic evil, the plane itself rejects them. The air smells like burning hair. The holy water in their flask boils. Their skin itches as if covered in insects. They take a metaphysical penalty to their very existence. They tire faster. Their wounds heal slower. The plane is trying to digest them like a virus. Conversely, an evil necromancer stepping into Elysium is not greeted with peace. They are greeted with the burn. The positive energy of the plane scalds their negative-aligned soul. They feel a crushing weight of guilt and benevolence that can incapacitate them. Finally, we must speak of the quietest, saddest danger of them all: the one-way drift. We spoke of keys earlier. We spoke of the need to secure a return ticket, but sometimes mistakes happen. You step through a portal to the elemental plane of Earth to mine diamonds. You have the key to get back. But while you are there, an earthquake shifts the stone. The archway you came through collapses. You dig it out, but the frame is broken. The geometry is ruined. The portal is dead. You are stranded. This is the nightmare of the marooned. You are now a resident of a plane that does not support your life. If you are in the plane of fire, you have as long as your fire resistance potion lasts. If you are in the plane of earth, you have as long as the air in the pocket lasts. But even in a survivable plane, like the Outlands or Arborea, the drift takes a toll. You wait, you look for another portal. But without a tuning fork or a wizard, you are at the mercy of chance. And then there is the time drift. Time is not constant. In the astral, time stops. In the Feywild, time is fluid. In the outer planes, time is subjective. You might spend what feels like a year trying to find a way home. You finally find a portal. You step through, relieved to smell the air of the prime material. But when you arrive, the city you knew is gone. The forest has overgrown the ruins. You have fallen into a time-dilated pocket. While you spent a year in the Feywild, 500 years passed on the Prime. Everyone you knew is dead. Your culture is history. Your language is archaic. You are a relic. This is a fate worse than death for many. To be a stranger in your own home. This is why many planewalkers, upon realizing the time shift, simply turn around and go back to the plains. They become eternal wanderers because they no longer have a when to return to. And consider the god isles of the astral. As you drift, you might see immense shapes floating in the distance. Huge, petrified forms of stone, faces the size of continents, hands that clutch nothing. These are the bodies of dead gods, deities who lost their worshippers, who were killed in the Dawn War, or who simply faded away. They float in the astral, for the astral is the preservation jar of the multiverse. They are hazards because they are not entirely dead. Dreams still flicker in their petrified brains. If you drift too close to God Isle, you might be sucked into a dreamscape. You might find yourself acting out the memories of a dead deity, fighting wars that ended 1,000,000 years ago, trapped in a loop of divine regret. Some travelers land on these islands to mine the god blood, rare minerals that form in the veins of the corpse. But they risk waking the antibodies, the astral devas or sorrow-sworn that still patrol the dead flesh, attacking any parasites that land on their master. So you see, the space between the worlds is not just space. It is a barrier. It is a test. It is a filter designed to keep the weak in their little crystal spheres, safe and ignorant. But you are still here. You are still listening. You have looked at the map. You have forged the key, and you have stared down the throat of the dreadnought. You are ready to arrive, but arrival is not the end. Arrival is merely the beginning of the consequence. What happens when you finally step onto the soil of a new world? How do you survive the first hour? And what is the price you pay for leaving home? We are at the end of our journey. The fire is almost out. Just one final ember remains. Let us finish this. The fire is all but gone now. Only a single ember remains in the heart of the ash, pulsing with a faint, rhythmic red light, like the heartbeat of a sleeping drake. The room has grown cold. The shadows have claimed the corners, and the silence of the late hour presses against the windows. It is time to end this. We have spent hours, or perhaps lifetimes, given the subjective nature of our discussion, preparing for the journey. We have forged the forks, deciphered the cant, climbed the trees, and braved the void. But there is one moment we have not yet lived. The most critical moment. The moment the magic ends and reality begins. Arrival. You might imagine that stepping through a portal is like walking through a doorway in your home. You step from the kitchen to the hall. Seamless, painless. This is a lie. When you use a portal to travel between planes, you are violating the fundamental laws of localized physics. You are taking a mass of matter, your body, that belongs in one frequency of existence and forcing it into another. The universe notices, and the universe reacts. First, there is the auditory displacement, often called the thunderclap. Unless you are using a stealth-enchanted portal or a natural bleed like a fog bank, your arrival is loud. You are displacing air. You are shoving the atmosphere of the destination plane out of the way to make room for your volume. This creates a vacuum implosion that sounds like a crack of thunder. If you are trying to sneak into a drow fortress in the Underdark, or an infernal citadel in Dis, this noise is your death warrant. You arrive, the air cracks, and every guard within 300 feet knows exactly where you are. Experienced walkers cast silence on the destination area before they step through, if possible. Then, there is the gravitational shock. You have spent your life on the prime material, where gravity is a constant, 1g force pulling you down toward the center of a sphere. If you step into the elemental plane of air, there is no down. You step through the frame, and your stomach lurches into your throat. You flail, trying to catch your balance, but there is no floor. You are falling in all directions at once. This induces immediate, violent projectile vomiting. It is known as the spins. If you step into the elemental plane of Earth, the gravity might be directional, pulling you toward the nearest large wall. You might step through a door and immediately slam face first into the floor because gravity has rotated 90 degrees. Then comes the atmospheric acclimatization. Take a deep breath now. Fill your lungs. That is air, nitrogen, oxygen, a little dust. It is sweet. It is safe. Now imagine stepping into the city of brass. The air is superheated. It is filled with ash and sulfur. The moment you inhale, your lungs spasm. You cough violently. Your eyes water and sting. If you do not have a bottle of air or a necklace of adaptation, you might pass out within the first minute. Or consider Mount Celestia. The air there is thin, pure, and rarefied. It is like standing on the highest peak of the world. You gasp for breath, dizzy with the altitude, even though you are at sea level relative to the plane. The light is so bright it hurts your retinas. You are snowblind and gasping. This is the planar kneel. It is the common sight of a traveler arriving. They step through the shimmering light and immediately drop to their hands and knees, coughing, retching, and blinking tears from their eyes. It is not a heroic entrance. It is a biological reboot. But the physical symptoms are merely the preamble. The true weight of arrival is metaphysical. We must speak of the beacon effect. You are a prime. Your soul is a native of the material plane. It vibrates with a specific energy, a mix of potential, neutrality, and grounding. When you step into an outer plane, which is composed of pure belief, pure good, pure evil, pure law, you stand out. You do not blend in to a demon in the abyss. A prime soul smells like fresh meat. It smells distinct, alien, and appetizing. You are a glowing white spot on a black canvas. You cannot hide your nature. Even if you polymorph into a demon, your soul still hums with the frequency of the prime. You feel exposed. You feel a constant, prickling sensation of being watched, because the plane itself is aware of your foreign presence. And then there is the alignment pressure. If you are a chaotic neutral rogue and you step into Mechanus lawful neutral, you will feel a crushing headache. The order of the plane presses against the chaos in your blood. You feel stiff. Your creative thoughts are sluggish. You feel a compulsion to walk in straight lines, to organize your inventory, to speak in monotone. The plane is trying to rewrite your personality. If you stay too long, weeks or months, you might succumb. You might forget your chaotic nature and become a cog in the machine. This is how the planes grow. They digest visitors. Survival protocol. The first hour you have arrived, you are on your knees. You are coughing. The air smells like brimstone. What do? 1. The touchback. Before you take a single step away from the portal, you turn around and you touch the frame. You check if the portal is still open. You check if the key still works. You ensure that your retreat is secured. Never, ever walk away from your extraction point without verifying it. 2. The disguise. You look like a tourist. Your clothes are wrong. Your weapons are wrong. Your smell is wrong. You must mask your scent. In the Beastlands, rub the local dirt on your skin. In the lower planes, cover your face. Hide your holy symbols. If you are a cleric of Lathander walking into the 9 hells, your holy symbol is a flashlight in a dark room. Put it inside a lead-lined box. 3. The food and drink rule. This is the oldest rule in the folklore, and it is canon for a reason. Do not eat the food. In the Feywild, eating the food binds you to the plane. It acts as a soft gesh. If you eat a fairy fruit, you may never want to leave. You may forget your home. In Hades, the gray waste, the food tastes like ash. It offers no nourishment. It drains your will to live. You can eat a full meal and starve to death because your spirit refuses to digest it. In the 9 hells, the wine is often spiked with subtle alchemical contracts. Drinking a glass might legally bind you to a minor devil's service, without you signing a scrap of parchment. Carry your own rations. Drink your own water. Create your own food and water with magic if you can. Do not accept hospitality until you understand the laws of the host. The long-term consequence. The return, let us assume you succeed. You find the portal. You brave the hazards. You steal the treasure, save the prince, or learn the secret. You make it back to the portal frame. You use the key. The thunderclap happens again. The gravity shifts back. You are standing in your kitchen. The fire is in the hearth. The stew is in the pot. You are home, but you are not the same. This is the final, unspoken tragedy of the planewalker, the alienation. You have seen the infinite. You have seen the gears of Mechanus turning the cosmos. You have seen the angels of Celestia flying in formations that defy geometry. You have looked into the eyes of a Balor and survived. And now, you must listen to your neighbor complain about the rain. You must listen to the town guard talk about a goblin raid as if it is a major threat. The prime material plane will start to feel small to you. It will feel gray. It will feel flat. You have tasted the spices of the city of brass, and now everything tastes like gruel. This is why planewalkers band together. This is why they congregate in Sigil. They cannot relate to the clueless anymore. They become addicted to the weird. They crave the danger. And physically, you may change. This is planar taint. If you spend years in the Shadowfell, your skin will turn pale and cold. You will lose the ability to feel warm in the sun. If you spend years in limbo, your eyes might change color according to your mood. If you spend years in the hells, you might grow small, vestigial horns, or your shadow might move independently of you. You become a planar. You are no longer fully human or elf or dwarf. You are something else. You are a creature of the wheel. Conclusion, the ember has gone out. The room is dark. We have traveled a long way, you and I, without ever leaving this room. We have mapped the multiverse. We have identified the keys. We have warned of the dangers. You asked for a guide to finding a portal. I have given you more than that. I have given you the warnings that might save your soul. The multiverse is not a playground. It is a complex, indifferent, and magnificent machine. It is a house with infinite rooms, and most of them want to kill you. But in that danger lies the only adventure worth having. So, when you go out tomorrow, and you see a circle of mushrooms in the glade, or you see a door that stands a little too crooked in the alleyway, do not walk past it. Stop, look at the markings, feel the air, check your pockets for a key, and if you are brave enough, step through. The cage is waiting. The void is waiting. The adventure is just beginning. Thank you for sitting with me by the fire. The stories are long, and the lore is deep, but there is always more to uncover. If you found this guide helpful, if you feel a little more prepared to face the great wheel, please consider leaving a like on this transmission. It helps other travelers find their way to our campfire. And if you wish to join us for the next journey, to dive deeper into the histories of the Blood War or the secrets of the Dark Lords, make sure you subscribe to the channel, ring the bell, so you do not miss the summons when the next portal opens. Safe travels, Cutter. Watch your step. And remember, don't drink the water.